Erasing all
Oh,
content.
It's a
I
great
know
picture.
this one
I
is
like the
Tom's favorite.
I like
this
the
is my
picture that we had in the other one with the walking away from the GIF with the burning building. But I think this is my favorite part of macOS Monterey, and I think it's fundamentally one of something that's going to impact most IT professionals time-wise of this
right.
release.
Yes.
Now to understand why this is here just now, because we've had this on iOS, I guess, as long as I can remember. I can't remember back to, I remember managing the first iPad over iPhone configuration utility. Those are fun days. But always on iOS, you've been able to wipe that, essentially not having to like plug it up to a Mac and reinstall iOS. Well, what we didn't have on macOS was having the user data and the system data like logically separated. And I guess it was in Big Sur is when that became a thing. Is that
I
remembering,
think it was
Tom?
before then. It was in Catalina.
Yeah, it was in Catalina.
Yeah, they all run together in pandemic years. Well, so now what you can do, you can erase the user data securely without having to reinstall Mac OS. And if you think about, again, I think of everything as like, how does this scale to if I manage 1,000 people that were all work remotely that I may have never be managing machines that I will never, ever, ever, ever touch until it's decommissioned, because if it's deployed with zero touch, instead of having to try to walk the user through like how to securely erase the machine or ship it back, now you can essentially erase this machine and erase all the user data, erase the company data without having to reinstall the operating system. So when you start thinking about having to decommission machines, you can know that machine doesn't leave the user that is having to take that to FedEx to ship back to wherever you're receiving the machines back, or whether it's a leasing company or whatever. Before it gets in the box that has all company data and all personal data of the user removed. And to me, very, very transformative feature.
Absolutely. And I think that the best possible way for us to demonstrate how valuable this is, it was when you think about it, when you've got a machine that you've got in its state, when it's out in the hands of the user, of just come back and you want to get it ready to go again. In a lot of cases, that requires, a whole lengthy trip through, wipe, reinstalling the operating system. It's a 45 to 60 minute process right now. And so if we think about it from that perspective, well, how do we make that better? And the answer is, here we are, in my demo tenant of JumpCloud, we've got everybody's named after Ted Lasso characters, because why not? We'll say that this is the PR director's machine or the director of football operations, and they've been sacked, right? And so essentially at that point, once you actually click the button to erase their machine, which I have just clicked now, it takes a second for the command to get down to the device, but we'd be looking at an hour to get this machine ready for the next person. But now you can tell that this machine has just restarted. And in about 60 to 120 seconds or so, we're going to be back at the setup assistant.
That's
This is
seconds,
how
not
little
minutes.
time it takes. Yeah, 60 seconds. And so you can see that the machine is now rebooting the system from there. It has gone through and tossed out the previous, user data section of the hard drive. And we're going to be back ready at system preferences here in just a minute, or the setup assistant, where you can go through and recommission this machine for someone. It turns a 60-minute task into about a 3-minute task. And so the ability for you to essentially say, hey, look, I want to make sure that this machine is ready to go for the next person, and the next person is going to be here in 5 minutes. They erase it in all contents and settings is your friend here. And it's going to give you most of what you need most of the time. There are some sorry, it was very loud on the reboot cycle there. But when you think about getting machines ready for new employees and that new experience of zero touch enrollment, and getting machines directly in the hands of the people who need them when they need them. This also lets you do something like maybe what you do before you, if you've got a machine transfer happening, that you essentially the last thing that they do on that machine is just erase the device and then they send it on to the next person. And so this is a way that you could do demo operations for, a specific piece at that point where everybody gets through that process. and you get back to the setup assistant as quickly as possible, because that's really what you're looking for as an organization, is rapid return to service workflows. And while M1 gave us the ability to do that in 6 minutes or 6 to 8 minutes over USB-C while directly connected, the ability to take an existing operating machine and return it to the setup assistant in approximately 3 minutes is probably about the best that we can expect kind of anywhere. So, there's a lot of things. It will go through a multiple reboot cycle as part of this process. It reboots about 4 times during this process, but that's the longest task that you have to face as an admin. And you can see I haven't had to touch this machine. It's just hanging out here doing its thing, and it'll be back at Setup Assistant ready to go through the initial deployment workflow of my environment. So it's re-enrolled in Apple. I mean, it never left the Apple Business Manager enrollment, but it's ready to re-enroll in my MDM at this point. And
well,
so
I was going to clarify, that's a key part. It's ready to re-enroll. It's ready for the next user. And I even wonder too, if we're going to see, we've not really had this mass unenrolled decommissioning with remote work. I mean, we're probably in another year, there's going to be a lot of weird things happening with devices, employees that may be working for companies remotely. This what do you do with machines? And one of the things I've always thought about a lot is let's say, for example, Tom, you have this webinar today. What if your Mac breaks an hour before or something happens?
That's
well,
right.
Obviously, I know you've probably got a garage just full of them, but the average person, will we see an option where IT says hey, we're sending you a new Mac, but we want you to keep your old one. That's your spare. That's your backup. Again, it's hard to say, hey, your Mac's broken. We're going to ship you a new one in 3 to 5 days. And then now it's actually really hard to even get a computer. So that's now what I want to see somebody do, and I would love to see a video of this, is I want to see you remember back in the day when we were all doing the Wi-Fi and we would they do the bake-offs and they put them on the gym and you would say all right, here's 100 Macs, 100 iPads, and we just try to watch a video. I want to see somebody in a gym or some sort of conference room with 100 Macs sitting in a big room and go through and see how quick they can all be wiped.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, that process is
I would bet the store every night.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an entirely multi-threaded process for Apple devices, because the only network traffic that you have to do at that point is just the erase command. And so the existing erase command in JumpCloud today restored this machine ready to go so that it's ready for its next person. And I've got the remote management screen up here, and if I click through, it'll actually take me back to the point where hey, I've got to do my authentication as I joined the AFC Richmond team. And so essentially it's ready to go. And the only thing the system had to do was go through the activation layer. And so the network traffic that was required for all this was incredibly minimal. So there's no reason you couldn't set up 500 of these in a conference room, as long as you had space for them to sit, that you could at that point set them all up, wipe them, set them all up again. And it's an entirely a multi-threaded process, because the only network traffic that has to happen is the device has to accept that command. So it's a pretty seamless little operation to go through erase all contents and setting. This is the feature that admins have been asking for I don't know, a decade, ever since it came to the iPhone. The ability to rapidly reprovision a Mac and get it ready for the next person is nothing short of astonishing. And so my deepest thanks to everybody who worked on this feature at Apple. You've clearly made a lot of Mac admins' lives so much better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Please subscribe and check out more content from us.